Hello everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Animation Bootcamp. And this might be an unfamiliar face, but today I will be your teacher and I'll probably be taking over for, well, most of you might be more familiar with Emily that used to run this kind of stuff, but today I'll be your teacher and I'll be guiding you through it. And this should be very easy for everybody to follow along. I kind of set it up in a sort of foolproof way, so I hope we can all have something by the end of this to show. Hello, I'm glad to see people in the chat. Yeah, just please say hello in the chat if you're there. I want to know if you're alive or not, or I just would love to have a lot of chat interaction this stream. That would be fantastic. And yeah, I'm a student here at CADA. I'm a second semester student. And today, as I said, is going to be very basic. We restructured a little bit. I'm mainly a Blender user, and this will be a Blender sort of animation bootcamp. But everything I'm going to teach you today is going to be very basic. It's going to be very much about like the principles of animation. So this could even be used for stuff that's not even to do with 3D animation per se or something. Hello. Yeah, this is day one of like sort of a 2-day kind of thing that we're doing. So today will be very basic introduction. You don't even have to know Blender. You don't need to know like any hotkeys. I'll take you through it from like complete beginner. And then in 2 days, on Thursday, we'll do it again. So 1.5 hours today. Same time in 2 days, we'll do 1.5 hours. So today is like module 1, and in 2 days we'll do module 2. And before I start, I'd just like to say that I would love if people would just be active in the chat. Feel free to say whatever. Feel free to ask any types of question. Say hello, yeah, anything. And that'd be really awesome. Because this is live, it's not a video, so the kind of like the advantage of this is that I can get to interact with you people. I see there's 9 of you in the chat, and I'd love to sort of sit you through this whole thing, and hold your hand, and we should be good. Okay. So there's a file for today that you should all download where I have a scene set up that we'll use. But before we do that, I'd like everybody in the chat to open a fresh Blender scene. So first I'll just kind of introduce people to Blender. There might be some people in the chat that have never used Blender. Actually, I'd be very curious, like how many of you people have like had any 3D experience before? Have you ever opened Blender? Are there people in chat that are like completely new to Blender? Is that something we have going on? It's your first 3D animation class. Oh, that's cool. It should be fine. I'll take you through it. Don't worry. It'll be completely fine. Yeah. So yeah, don't be shy, guys. Like, just let me know in chat if you're completely new, or just say hello. I'll be interested to hear where you're from and stuff like that too, right? So I'll give everybody a little bit of time to sort of open up a new chat or a new Blender. Just open up a fresh Blender. I can even do it myself here too. So once you download it, you should get a shortcut on your desktop, and you just open it like so. I used Prisma 3D. Okay, cool. Never used Blender before. That's great. From the first time here. That's fine. That's completely fine. So you should get met with this kind of screen as soon as you use Prisma 3D software. Yeah, it'll be fine. I'm gonna tell you all the hotkeys and the stuff to know. I'll also do like, in the beginning here, I'll do like a more of a general guide, just to get you like familiar with Blender a little bit. Okay. Are people at this stage, have you guys opened up a fresh Blender scene? Maya for the win. Okay. Maya is great too. Blender is, Maya gang. Alright. Okay, we got some rebels in the chat. So is everybody at this stage? I'll give you a little bit of time. Just open up a fresh Blender scene right here, and then I'll go through the hotkeys. Yes, okay. So you're met with this sort of setup in Blender, and I won't be going through everything because Blender is better. I agree. I use Blender mainly at the school. I'm not gonna talk too much about it. I mean, I will be fine, but both are really good. I just like to use Blender because it's very versatile and it's free. But yeah, so Blender setup, you have a bunch of different windows, and all these windows do different things, and it might seem really confusing at first, but you won't use half of them, and at the point where you get to use a lot of them, you'll really appreciate them. And it's a nice setup. So at the top bar, it's like the most important for today, one of it. It's like we have layout, we have modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texture painting, a bunch of stuff. I sort of live in some of these tabs, like modeling and sculpting, but today we'll use the animation tab mostly. And all what these are just workspaces, so like they're different layouts. They might seem a little intimidating at first, but they're honestly just different layouts of the first like default scene. So you could get this to become this if you wanted to. It's just like a quicker way to get it set up for what we need. I used to think ZBrush would be hard to learn, and the character modeling scared me a bit. Then I started to learn it. Yeah, and it probably became really fun, right? It's okay to fuck up, it's all part of the process. Blender from a short-term online course, yeah, okay. Alright, yeah, so, yeah, I mean, also guys, like, feel free to ask any types of 3D related questions about the school. It doesn't have to be specifically related to, like, what we're doing right now. So I'll go back to the layout tab, and I'll kind of go through what is on screen right now. So at the bottom is where we see our timeline, and you can sort of drag this around, and basically this is where we'll be doing our animation. This is where we determine what time something is. The big area is called the viewport. So timeline at the bottom, viewport here. At the side we have the outliner. This is where we have all the sort of different objects in our scene. If you've used other 3D software, you might be very familiar because they all sort of have some kind of version of it. So we have our cube, and also left click to select stuff is very intuitive. Camera, cube, the light, and then under that we have a box, a sort of tab for all the more complex or nuanced like operations you can do in Blender. There's like rendering, like data, modifiers, lights, all this, but don't worry about that. For this course we'll not really be using that, or if we do, I'll guide you through it, right? And so to rotate, you use middle mouse, so the middle button on your mouse. It's very simple. And then if you wanna move around the scene, you add a shift to that. So you hold down shift and then you click middle mouse, and you can sort of pan around. By the way, if anything is going too fast or you miss a hotkey or something, just let me know. I'll guide you through that. It should be simple enough, yeah. And so from here, we can use this as well. So you can rotate like this, that's fine. You can also rotate using this little thing in the top right corner. And we will be using that because it has a really handy feature. If you click the little things here, Z, Y, X and stuff like that, you can go into like a side view. It goes a bit fast, but you can kind of see what it does. You can go into an orthographic view. Blender is I agree, Blender is lovely. Yeah. Blender is life, yes, totally. Okay. Okay, from here, what we need to know is we have the timeline, we have frames. I will explain a little bit about frames maybe when we get to that. And we can set the start frame and the end frame of our animation. So here I'll just go straight into the animation tab because things will change a little bit. It's down here. So if we want an animation that's 25 frames long, we'll set it like that, right? Okay. If you ever get lost, you can click home on your keyboard. So let's say I do this accidentally, I don't know where I am. You can click home and you'll go back to where you are. What specs are you using? I'm not sure. It could be, this is not my personal PC. It's like a 3060 Ti maybe. And like a decent CPU, but I mean, we won't be doing anything that's really PC intensive right now. Yeah, it's just a school PC, I don't know, it should be, you know what, I mean, especially with animation, PC specs is not too important. It's more like when you get into rendering and that kind of stuff. Right now we'll just do like viewport, animation, and not really render it out. We'll do a play blast at the end, and I'll explain what that is. Yeah. So if you get lost, you can also select stuff out here, and then if you click on your comma key on your numpad, you can focus on that thing. So if I lose my cube, I can select it and then comma key and you go back. 1650 Ti. I mean, it will work for this for sure. It's not a problem. Okay. So I'll put a keyframe down. I want everybody to sort of, if you have this open, just do the stuff I'm doing right now. I'm just middle mousing, shift middle mousing around. Get a little bit comfortable with it. You can click 1 on your numpad to go into orthographic view. Boom, boom, boom. It's very simple. If we open up here on the left, we have these things, which is what we use to sort of move stuff around. If you click this is our move tool. You get little arrows. You just left click, drag. You can move the box around. We can go into the rotate. You can rotate it. And that's just, yeah, laptop GPUs, they do fry a little bit. But yeah, it is what it is. You gotta make it work with what you have, you know? Maybe one day. It's decent, yeah, for sure. So yeah, we have these tools: rotate, scale, move. We'll be doing moving today only. Shortcut for moving is G. So you move with G. You can grab. It's G for grab, and then S for scale, R for rotate. And I just wanted to get like a little bit familiar with this before we go into the main scene. And this is kind of why we're set up here now, so you can sort of just mess around with it and not break something. Not that I think you would break something, but just in case, you know. Get a little familiar with it, and then we'll sort of go into the main scene, right? We could even click I to set a keyframe. Don't worry, we'll get into this in a little bit. And then you can move stuff. You see how I moved the timeline? So we want this to move at this time, we want this to move over here. And then we click I, and then we save the location basically. And you can kind of see how that works. But don't worry about this, I'm just messing around, and I want everybody to sort of just chill out and mess around a little bit. Just get familiar with the move, scale, rotate, that kind of stuff. And then, yeah. So what Ankit, I hope I'm saying that right, Ankit is talking about is you can click G, and then you can click X to move it on the X-axis, or Z for up and down, and Y for back and forth, kind of like a coordinate system. Exactly. So if you want like more accurate movement, this is how you would do it in Blender. Or you could use this if you're used to other, like maybe like Maya or something. You can just move it like this. Okay. So please get familiar with this, and once you're ready, we will open up the other scene that I have prepared, and we'll get right into the bouncing ball, which will be fun. I'll close this down. I feel like I got a handle on everything. I can sort of navigate around and not get super lost. I hope, is this like fine for everybody? I hope people are not scared of Blender at this point. It should be manageable right now. We don't really need to use a lot of all of these things. We just need to use like the viewport and the timeline for now. I hope that's fine. So I won't save this. I'll find the So in the chat it's pinned, and it is in the description too. You can download today's like scene that I have set up, and we can go from there. Yeah. So I'll give everybody a second to kind of open up this so I don't leave people behind. I would like to know, I mean, if while I'm just giving this a minute, like if people sort of want to share like sort of like what brings you here, you know, like are you here because you like some kind of media or artist? Is there like, are you into games or movies or VFX or what kind of? It couldn't be any. It could also just be curiosity or something like that. I don't know. Personally, I'm more of like I used to play a lot of games during high school and stuff, and a lot of 3D games, and that's kind of, you know, what got me interested in that stuff and got me to sort of pursue this path a little bit. Probably give it like a minute. Has anyone been able to get to this point? Or just like, can people find the scene and everything? Is it? Are you guys able to open it up like this? You should just download it and then just like launch it, you know, you don't have to do anything else. You should open this. Animation and VFX student. Oh, that's really cool. Where are you from? Oh, I couldn't, huh? Okay, in Copenhagen, that's really cool. Yes, you're in. That's great. That's great. I hope everybody else is in too. I don't want to like lose people, you know. And we'll get started from this point. You're living in India. That's cool, man. Okay. I'm here for my dream. I want to be king, become king of all animators, become animator this world has ever seen. That's my dream. You know what? That's respectable, man. You gotta work really hard for that, but I believe in you. You got it. For sure. Okay, so we have a bouncing ball. The goal today is to do a bouncing ball animation, which is like the most basic thing, like all animators go through it, and that's kind of why we're doing it today. And it'll become very obvious as soon as we start animating this thing why it's sort of like such a loved exercise. You'll get to really practice your animation skills. So looking at this, it might be a little confusing, but it's actually kind of simple in a way. So you'll click these controllers here, just left click it, and then in Blender we want to go into, on the top left you'll see there's an object mode here, and we want to go into pose mode. This is how we start animating stuff. Inside pose mode we can select, this is called a controller. We can select the bottom controller, the top controller, and the lower controller. Some people can kind of refer to these as bones. Some people will say controllers. Reality is it's sort of a mix between both, like both are correct, but you don't need to worry about that. I just call them controllers. We have the button, we have the top, the bottom, and then the main controller. Yeah. And we can start to move these around and play with them and kind of see what they do, right? You take the bottom, you move it, you can move the whole ball up and down. We take the top. You don't have to do this, by the way, you can just watch for a bit if you're scared of breaking something, but I would encourage playing around with it. If you do something, you can control Z and move it back to where it was, right? But this is kind of how it is. We can squash the ball up or down and move it. Yeah. Okay. So from here, we'll go into the animation tab. Not a One Piece fan. Okay. We'll go into the main animation tab here. And we'll go into orthographic view to get sort of an overview. All the best, yeah. Okay. Here we can start to set our keyframes. So basically what a keyframe is, I'll show a video in a second and it'll become more obvious. But when you're talking about animation, you kind of want to put down the key moments of the animation first. So we're going to be doing a bouncing ball that's going to jump up and fall down into the air. So we'll set a keyframe for when it's on the ground, when it's at the top, and when it's at the bottom. So we'll start out by doing that. So if you remember, I said I to insert a keyframe, and we put it right here at the bottom, because the bottom of the jump. We want our animation, so down here is like the time marker. We can just set it to like 25 frames right now, and we kind of have this right now. You can drag, scroll this, you can scroll wheel to zoom, right? Sort of intuitive. And about in the middle, because like in the middle of the jump, boom, boom, in the middle of the jump, we want it to be at its apex, so at the highest point of the animation. I hope people can follow. Just let me know, right? Let me know if something goes too fast. But we click G to move it up, and then we click I to insert a keyframe in the location. So about in the middle. Doesn't have to be accurate. We'll adjust this later. And so we have our keyframes here. And if we start to drag the time around between these, we can see the ball is actually moving from our first keyframe to our second keyframe, which is pretty cool. And now we want it, at the end, we want it to be back where it started, because it jumps up and then down. So we can copy, click drag, you can copy, Control C. So we copied this, Control C, and then we put it at the end. Okay, I want people to get a little bit familiar with that. We can copy keyframes and put it in other places, right? So now we have this sort of action. We can move keyframes too. Let's say we wanted the apex to be over here. We could do that too. So now the highest point is here, and then it goes down. But we want it in the middle. And there we go. The bouncing ball is done. And we can see what it looks like. We can play it. And I'll guarantee you, it's gonna look very strange. That's sort of not the look we want. It's not a great bouncing ball, but it's a beginning. Can I ask how to set camera and record a frame? Yes, we will record at the end, sort of, if we have time for it. But we'll record a play blast, so we'll just record sort of what we see here in the viewport. Maybe we can do something with the camera next time, so in 2 days, but for now we won't be setting up any cameras. I hope that's okay. But it's simple enough. And yeah, okay. If that's what you meant, I hope that's what you meant. If you're asking how do we record this, I'll show you how to like record what we're seeing on screen, so you can post it in places at the end. That's the goal of today. I want everybody to have sort of like a little animation they did that they can post, right? Okay, we're here and this doesn't look very nice. And to sort of understand why it doesn't look very nice, we have to understand what makes animation look good in the first place. And there's something that all animators get familiar with at some point, which is called the 12 principles of animation. If we apply those to this bouncing ball, even though it doesn't look great right now, is it required a cam to record? No, not at all. It's just a function inside Blender. I'll show it. It's very simple. What key do you use to move the ball? What key do you use to move the ball again? Frame 12. Okay. Wait, I'll run you through that again. So I'll just delete it, right? So we have our timeline here. We want it to be down in the beginning, and then at frame 12, just make sure you are in pose mode. So up here, it might still be in object mode. Be careful you're not going to pose mode. Select the main controller, and then click G. G for grab, that's kind of how it is in Blender. R for rotate, S for scale, and then G for grab. Not M for move or something, G for grab. You move it up, and then you click I to insert a keyframe, and then you do the location, because we moved it. Then you should have this. Is that alright? Hang, are you with us? Just let me know if something is confusing or if it's a different problem you have. It's like, This is what the live stream is for, you know? I'll hold your hand through it. Everything should be fine. Yep. Okay, as I was saying though, 12 principles of animation is sort of the Bible for animators. I'll show you a quick little video that will go through it fast, and then we'll dig into them. We can't master all of those principles today, but we'll get started on them, sort of. So I'll find this video. Yeah, Hang, let me know if that's sorted, if you are able to follow along. Yep. I forgot the pause mode. Yeah, exactly. Remember the pause mode, yeah. Okay. So I'll show a video. This video is from the 3D Essentials course. And it's a course that's hosted by the school that I'm currently attending, that I'm a student of. You can go read more about the course at the website if you sort of like this video and the style, and if you want to learn more about animation, like if you like what we're doing today or something, you can go check that out. But for now, we'll watch this video. It's 6 minutes long. It'll just run you through it very quick. It's sort of what is it that makes an animation a good animation, and from there we can take it from there, right? So just sit tight, watch this, and I'll talk about it after the video. Yeah. So it's kind of like a sneak peek into the course as well, you know? Lucky you guys. Yeah. I'll get out of here. Give me a second. Oop. Of course I can. Question. Good call. Good call. Whoa. And I'll mute myself and just enjoy the video for. And if there's stuff you don't understand, guys, just don't worry about it. I'll talk you through it, right?
Before diving into Blender, it's important that we understand some terminology and concepts that are fundamental to animation. Animation is an art form that is over a century old.
At its most basic, it is a sequence of still images that have been manipulated to create the illusion of life and to elicit ideas and emotions on an audience. There's many different ways to create animation. Pencil on paper, oil paint on glass, clay puppets, 3D images. The possibilities are endless. Animation can encompass any and all visual styles.
And while there's no rules to animation, usually we're trying to establish a relationship between us and the audience. And in order to do so, we need to create animation that can feel relatable. The process of animation can depend a lot on the technique that we use.
In our case, we will be doing 3D computer animation. The workflow has been greatly influenced by classical hand-drawn 2D animation and stop motion, wherein, starting from an idea or an emotion, whether it is for a small scene or an entire movie, a series of images are created to communicate that concept. We usually identify key moments in time, and from there we continue to create images to fill all that time and space in between. To help create those key images and to create the illusion of life in the screen, animators have traditionally used 12 principles to great effect to create appealing and believable animation. So let's take a look. Squash and stretch. This is perhaps the easiest principle to distinguish. All objects and matter have a degree of weight, volume, and flexibility. Rigid objects tend to deform little, while objects that are softer and with more plasticity tend to deform more. Through squash and stretch, we can illustrate actions, reactions, perspective, and forces applied to a particular object. Anticipation. Anticipation prepares the audience for an action that is about to be performed. Each major action is preceded by a movement that is usually to the opposite direction of what is about to happen. Staging. Staging is the presentation of an idea so that it is clear. Staging uses elements like the posing of a character, the composition of a shot, and other abstract elements to communicate a concept or emotion to the audience, always with clarity in mind. Straight ahead and pose to pose. This principle mostly refers to hand-drawn animation and a specific way of working in order to create it. Straight ahead animation means that one works by drawing or posing the animation from start to finish, frame by frame, while pose to pose functions by establishing certain keyframes that function as landmarks or targets, leaving space in the middle for in-betweens to be done at a later time. Follow through and overlapping action. Not all things move at the same time. Some initiate movement while others drag behind. And in characters, not all things stop at the same time either. So when the main body stops, all other parts continue to move until they lose all momentum and catch up to the main mass. Things like animal tails, clothes, hair, or limbs can help create more believability by delaying or offsetting their movement from the main mass of the character, and consequently how they settle into a still position. Slow in and slow out. Following the laws of physics, characters and objects need time to accelerate and to slow down. So more pictures are drawn near the beginning and the end of an action or a change of direction. Fewer drawings in between makes the action faster, while more drawings make the action slower. Arcs. In characters and creatures, rarely do we move in a straight line. Usually our bodies move in arcs or slightly circular trajectories, giving a more organic and natural feeling. Straight movement is usually reserved for actions that need to come across as mechanical and stiff. Secondary action. It's an additional action in the scene that complements and reinforces the main action and acting choices of the scene. Timing. This principle refers to the number of frames for a given action, which translates to the speed of the action. Correct timing makes objects appear to obey the laws of physics. Timing can help us understand the weight and impetus of an object or character, as well as the level of reality depicted through the animation. Pushed or stylized timing can alter the reality of a character and their personality. Exaggeration. Perfect imitations of realistic movements can often seem static or dull. Exaggerating or pushing an action can help emphasize it and create clarity and a stronger emotional reaction in our audience. Depending on our style of animation, the degree of exaggeration can help establish the narrative and the tone of our story. Solid drawings. While also most applicable for 2D animations, solid drawings can be understood for 3D animation as creating good balanced poses for our characters that have clear lines of action, sense of volume, and a sense of consistency for the character. Appeal. It refers to creating a sense of charm and pleasing the viewer's eyes through action. Not that everything needs to be cute, but it does need to be satisfying.
An important thing to mention is that you don't have to use the extreme form of these principles all the time. Think of them like ingredients to cook a delicious meal. Sometimes we will be using some more than others. Very cartoony animation might use a lot of stretch and squash and a lot of exaggeration, while maybe realistic animation will opt to do something much more subtle with very little contrast. It really depends on what it is that we're animating that we will use those principles for. If you want to learn more about these principles, and I really encourage you to, I recommend 2 books to continue your research. The first one is The Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston, and the second one is The Animator Survival Kit by Richard Williams. A lot of these principles will become much clearer once we start animating. It's a good idea to revisit them and research more about them once in a while. In the next video, I will be making a brief introduction to Blender. We'll take a look around and we will be making our very first animation. See you then.
Okay, I hope people enjoyed that. Alright, there we go. Then back to me. Hello, I'm back. Okay, I hope some of that made a little bit of sense for you guys, but I'll go over stuff again, the stuff we're using. And yeah, if you're new in the chat, there's a file that you can follow. It was amazing. It's from the 3D Animation Essentials course, so if you like that, it's on the CADA website. You can go to the CADA website in the description of the stream and learn more. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, if you're new in the chat, there's a file you can follow along, or you can just watch as well, right? Okay. So the reality is, like, you could use probably all of these principles on this little simple ball exercise, because that's kind of what makes it so good, right? This is a little bit boring and it just looks very unnatural, and we have to understand why that is, right? So we will be talking about, for the ball, this hour that's left, we'll add timing to it, we'll add spacing, we'll add anticipation, squash and stretch, and follow through. And all those things in that order should make the bouncing ball look a lot better. And I'll go through those as well, right? So the main thing that's wrong right now, and it might be hard to sort of see or understand if you haven't done animation before, is the spacing. So what that means is like every time like they showed every frame, you can kind of imagine the ball is being drawn on the screen. So we go next frame, next frame, next frame. But you want to sort of move the ball the right distance to get the right feeling of speed. So the main problem right now is that it kind of slows into the movement, and then it's very fast, and then it slows at the top, and then it slows at the bottom. So slow, 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 slow. And we kind of expect it to accelerate all the way until it hits the bottom. So we can take a look at what that actually looks like with traditional sort of animation. So give me a second here. Yeah, actually, I'll find an example right here. This is kind of what you would see when we're talking about traditional animation, because obviously they draw every single frame, which is very labor intensive, but they draw the ball a lot closer up here, which means that it will be slow. And then as it speeds up, they draw it further and further apart, which means that every frame the ball moves further and it gains more speed. I hope that sort of makes sense, and I'll demonstrate kind of what that looks like in 3D. Yeah, launch it. And to the people that are new, just ask questions and talk in the chat. It would make me more than happy to get questions, don't worry, right? There's no stupid questions, to be honest. Oh. Is it launching? Yeah. Okay, this will look a little bit scary at first, but don't worry, it's not that scary. I'll walk you through it. So I sort of set up a demonstration kind of, right? Because obviously in 3D we don't want to sit there and put a keyframe on every frame to make sure that the ball is doing the right thing. Blender kind of guesses what our in-between drawings are going to be. And the in-betweens are like what we saw in the example I showed before, where you kind of draw all the drawings in between the key poses, right? Blender does that for us, but it just guesses wrong because it has to guess. Like, it doesn't know that there's gravity or anything in this scene. So this is kind of how it guesses. All the drawings are very close in the beginning, and then it speeds up and then slows down into our next keyframe. Kind of see, this is every frame. You can see the little dots there, right? And how do we control that? We control this using the graph editor. Don't worry, I just people like just watch this, right? I'm not expecting you guys to set up a scene and look at all this. I'm just demonstrating something now, and then we'll get back to our own bouncing ball, right? So on the left here we have a graph editor. That's what we as 3D artists use to control the guess of the 3D software about where the in-between drawings are supposed to be. So you can see this is how it guesses. This is the same as our timeline down here. You can see at 20, it's at 20 here. So at the apex, and then in the beginning it slows into it. It moves up slowly and then faster and faster and faster, and then slows into the apex, and then it goes down again. And kind of, this might be a bit confusing if you're not used to looking at graphs, but I tried to set it up in a way that might make it a little easier to understand. And just bear with me, like, if you don't understand this completely right away, it's totally normal, because this might be a little confusing at first. But every time we move one forward, we look at the graph, and it basically reads, this is our Z position, so how high up is the ball? One frame up, it's not moving very far up in the Z direction. Next frame it moves a little bit further up, next frame it moves a lot further up, and then it keeps moving more and more up every time we go one frame forward. And this is also what we see here, right? So if we do that, we kind of get this graph, and then it slows down, it moves not that far up. Yeah, it sure does, exactly, yeah. But this is not the movement we want, because we want it to accelerate down. We want gravity, we want it to jump up. When a person jumps, they move the fastest right after they leave the ground, because right after they leave the ground, gravity sort of slows that person down, right? So what we want is a more a movement akin to this. So it's the exact same timing. The timing is the time in between our key poses, right? So that remains the same, but we change the spacing of stuff. So we sort of get this kind of movement, which is a lot closer to what we want, right? So you can see here already, this looks very different from the first one. Our spacing is very different. At the bottom, it moves very far in the first frame, and then it moves less and less and less and less. And then at the top, it kind of slows down. There's a lot of frames up there. And this is what the graph of that looks like, as we can see on the left as well. Any questions about this is totally expected, so just fire away if there's something that is a little bit confusing, or if you want me to explain something again. But yeah, we adjust the graph here. This is like our key frames that we set. We can adjust it. I'll show how to adjust stuff. But the most important thing is just sort of the understanding that we use graphs to sort of guess what's going on between the keyframes, right? The apex, we slow it down, and then near the end here, we make it go faster and faster and faster, and it gives us that movement. Feels a lot more natural. It accelerates. Yeah. So I'll close this scene down. If people need to take a look at it again or need me to explain something, I will do that. So we're back to our scene. I hope people have followed along so far. We sort of get that movement that we're looking at before, just a lot faster, but I hope you can still see it in it. Slow, 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 right? So to get that graph editor to sort of guess the interpolation is what we call it in 3D, we go here to the left, and at the top left of the window, we can change what it is that we want to see in this window, because right now it's just basically a copy of what we have here, but from a different angle. So we can go here and open up the graph editor. So I want people to sort of do this for a second, and I'll just take a drink of water. Let me know if that was understandable or not. I just want people to catch along until this point. Yeah. Sorry for the sore throat, by the way, but I'm trying my best. Yeah. Okay. From here, we can go into orthographic view. First of all, I like to work in this view. You don't have to, but I would definitely recommend it. So now we see the movement. Gotcha. Yep. I'm in graph editor. So you have a setup that's similar to this as well, Hank? I'd hope so. It's sort of important to be able to see both the bowl and the graph editor at the same time, right? So we have what we saw in the other scene as well. It's slow in the beginning and then it accelerates and slow at the top, but we don't want that. So we could start out, you have sort of all your different axes here in the top left. Yes, great. So if you click here, so, it's hidden by default, but you can sort of open up this tab here. There's a little arrow, it might be hard to see on the stream. There's a little arrow here, you can open it up. And here you can see the values of your bowl. So you can see at our apex, it's actually 4 meters up in the air. So what we want to do, we go into a graph editor. We can hide the Y and the X location because we're not using those right now. We're just moving it up and down. And so this is our up and down graph. So we put a keyframe here, and we want to change everything in between to make it sort of feel like a jump. And if you remember, we want to accelerate the most in the beginning. So we can grab, we have these keyframes here and they have handles. We can grab a handle. So I'll grab the handle of our first keyframe and then G to move it. And then you can sort of move it. And you can kind of change stuff however you want, right? I'll just try something. Let's try something and have fun with it. So I want it to be very fast in the beginning, so I can do that. And then I want it to accelerate down into the ground. And now if we play it, it will look something like this. Already a lot better. It feels bouncy. I mean, it's still strange for sure, but it feels very bouncy. Something I like to do is I like to hold it in the air a little bit longer. So you can select, drag, left mouse drag, select this, and you can actually scale it up. And then you basically move the handles on either side. You can also do this. You can also just select one and move it, but I like to scale it. Yeah. Play with this for a little bit, follow along, and then you get this kind of boom, 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 boom. So that is the spacing aspect of this jumping animation, this bouncing ball. Boop, boop, boop. It feels nice, but I mean, a lot of stuff is missing, right? Like the ball just feels like a solid object. There's no life in it. There's no gooiness. There's no fun in it, pretty much. It is bouncy though. Okay, and just let me know if people are able to get to this point, but it should be fairly... I hope you can follow along at least. And so next thing is anticipation, because we want the ball to sort of jump, right? Like a human, before they jump, they squat down, and you can see, like, you understand that you're about to jump into the air. It doesn't come as a surprise. And even though a ball doesn't have legs, we can still give the same feeling of compression and expansion, because we have these little fun ones, right? And we can do that. So anticipation is like making sure the viewer knows what's about to happen, so they don't get like too surprised by the animation, right? We want to sort of understand what's going on. Oh yeah, and this thing can be a little bit difficult to select in the orthographic view, but it is just this main controller, and you just go like orthographic and you can select it. Okay, so we want to move these, but we want to also be able to see like the stuff we did before. So we can select our main controller, and then we can pin it, this little pin thing here. Once we pin it, we can do whatever. We can select these, and we can still see where our other keyframes are. Now, of course, we want to anticipate something before it happens, and right now we can't do that because our first frame is like a jump. So what we need is we need more space for our animation. And we can go down here at the start of and the stop, and we can set this to like 35. We can always change this. And now we can select all our keyframes and move them a little bit to the right. You just select them and then you just drag them. So I give myself like 5 frames to work on in the beginning. That's enough to sort of squat down, I find. You can move all the keyframes, and then you get that. You have a little bit of time before the ball jumps. Okay. Is it good enough for... are people following along? Let me know. Always ask questions. It's fine. That's why it's live. Don't be scared if something goes wrong. That's completely expected. Okay, so to do a squat, you have to basically stand up first. So we're gonna squat with the top controller, left click to select it. So we want the top controller, the first keyframe we set for that, we want it to be standing up, if that makes sense. So we can set the location of it here. Oh, oops. We can set the location, I misclicked something. We can set the location of it standing up. And then we want it to squat down right before our jump. If you remember, this is like where we jump. So here we select G, and we move it down. And now this is where you can play with it. Like you can squat down really far into a pancake, or you can be just like a little more realistic about it. I kind of like to push it right now because it's fun. So I'll just do like a pretty big like squash on it. Boom. So now we end up with a squat down before we go bump, jump. And that looks really strange because we don't tell it to do we don't tell it like what to do after we kind of squat down, but it's a beginning. At least we can see it like squats down before it jumps, right? So this sort of anticipation, we kind of did it with a squash, and I might have said that as well while I was doing it. So squash and stretch is really important for the ball, but it's really important in general for everything that you do. Squash and stretch is basically just a way to exaggerate movement, right? Like when a ball squashes down and when it jumps, we can make it stretch. So when it jumps, what is it that we want to convey? We want to convey speed. And when something is fast, we can stretch it out to kind of give that feeling, right? So we can literally just go in here and then G on the frame, like right after we jump, right? Boom, boom. G, stretch it out. It looks like it's going very fast now, you can almost tell, right? Squash down, boom, and then it goes very fast. Boom, very fast. So there's a thing that's important to kind of mention here is like contrasts. Contrast in general. Like if you want to convey stuff, not just with animation, but in art in general, like contrasts are very, very important tools to sort of convey feeling or whatever it is that you want to show with the art that you're doing, right? Right now I just want to show speed, so I deliberately choose to have a very big difference right here from like the squash and then into the poof, very long, right? And that sort of gives a very satisfying look for the animation, because we expect when something stretches down very, very far, we expect like the opposite reaction as soon as it like lets go and stretches very long. So from flat to long, that gives us a very cool look. And you can play with that. If you want to do a funny animation, I would squash it down very, very far and then into like a jump that barely like lifts off the ground, right? That would look very silly, but it's also a use of contrast. It's just in a different way. Okay. So we can play it. Play your animation often, see what's going on, right? Now we have this. Whoa. Looks a little bit strange. That's fine. So we did this, we stretched it out because of speed, and then we have to think about, well, it looks strange that it's this elongated when it's actually very slow, because in the middle it's actually very slow, right? So that doesn't look good. So we can go here, and now this tab here, if you didn't open it, it will be very useful to open it now again. It should look like this by default. You can open it here. You can select this and put it to 0. That is how far up the controller is, right? So we can set it back to 0, and then we can set that as a keyframe. So now it goes from long to more and more and more and more normal as it slows down. And then we have boop. And that's already starting to look really good in the beginning, right? Boop, boop. I kind of like that already. So, but of course we want to keep that feeling of speed going. So as it goes towards the ground, as it accelerates because of gravity, we want to stretch it out again as well. We want to convey that. Boom. So we say, okay, when is the fastest? Well, the fastest is right before it hits the ground. So we can sort of do a stretch right here. Boom. We can exaggerate. It's better to exaggerate something and then pull it back after. Like just have fun with it while you're doing it, and then you can pull it back if it looks way too crazy, right? You can adjust stuff. So we can go boom, and now it looks like it's accelerating. And then once it hits the ground, boom, we want it to squash. We want to feel that force of it. So I go on the frame after here, G to move it down, I to insert a keyframe, boom, it's squashed. And now we get, and it looks kind of funny. And it looks like the ball has a little bit of life in it, right? Like it's actually, it looks like it's jumping. I hope people can kind of see what I'm doing here. And these are just like the basic principles. These matter for like any type of animation you're doing, even if it's like pen and paper, even if it's motion graphics, like all these things are useful. And now, so, okay. we get this right, and we're kind of happy with it so far. But we can keep adding stuff. We can keep making it a little bit more interesting. It sort of just flattens out at the end, which looks strange. So we can think about what is it that we're animating. Well, I'm imagining it being like sort of an elastic, plasticky ball. So it will be a little bouncy at the end. And that's what we call follow through. So follow through is basically when you have a force, like if I do this with my arm, like it doesn't just stop, like it doesn't just go boom and then it stops. Like my hand kind of has energy in it. So a bouncing ball, when it falls, it would kind of burn, like the force has, like the squash has to go up again, right? It's elasticy. So we go boom, it squashes down, and then what? Well, if we want this to loop, we can take first of all the last keyframe and put it at the end, right? So now the beginning and the end is kind of the same, and now it's going to do this very weird sort of, that looks a little bit strange, right? But it doesn't look bad. But we can push it a bit more. We want it to bounce. So actually, in the middle of these, so in the middle of our squash and in the middle of our normal pose, I'll do a pose that's higher up than what you would expect. So it kind of like goes too far and then back down. So it does a little bounce. And we can see if this is too much or how this feels now. And go boop. So it's subtle, but it adds life. All these subtle things in animation, they add a lot of life. We can kind of see how it's a little bit bouncy. And I'll give time for people a little bit to sort of catch up. I don't know, are people, so let me know if you're able to catch up or if things are going a little bit too fast. And if you want me to repeat something or do something again, I'll be more than happy to do that, right? So now we kind of have this animation. And animation is kind of one of those things that you can keep refining forever and ever, but I'm very happy with it so far. I want to add a little more flair to it though. So follow through is about like the energy. It sort of has to go places after it's expended, right? So I'm thinking of this as being very bouncy. So I like the idea that the bottom of it is being stretched as it's going up, and then it's like snapping up into it and then flattens it a little bit at the top, and I think that would give like kind of a funny look. This is like the place to sort of play with it and give it like your own little flair, is a way to say it, I guess. So it goes up, and then at the apex I want it to actually flatten a little bit as sort of. And I remember to click I and then insert a keyframe every time you change stuff. So I'll go here, and then I only want it to sort of, I want the bottom one to sort of hit up into the bowl after it's like been stretched and all that energy is going up there. And this is very like, this is detail oriented at this point. If you can get the bouncing ball to what I had before, I think it's like perfectly fine. Now I'm just playing around with it a little bit, right? So this should be 0 here, and then I pulled a little bit up here, and then I'll copy my keyframe, put it here. So at the apex it just does a little, and it'll be subtle, but it might be fun. So I'll move this a little bit, we can kind of see it. So it does a little, I don't know if you notice sometimes when people jump, at the top of their jump, they'll sort of jog their legs up a little bit. It's kind of what that emulates a little bit as well. It makes it feel more like I mean, it's weird to call a ball a human being, but it gives it that like little human feeling, and we kind of want that. Of course, it depends. Now we're not trying to do something realistic, but just something fun. Yeah. At this point, I would like to, you know, help people out, or if people are like, having issues getting it to look right or something, feel free to just sort of describe what the problem is, and maybe I can give some more examples or something like that. We got like half an hour left for me to sort of interact with you people, and I can take this animation further. But honestly, if you get the animation to this point, this is more than, like, this would be so good for already an hour, right? We're using a lot of principles here: timing, spacing, anticipation, squash and stretch, follow through. And you can spend ages mastering all these. This is basically what animation is all about. Mastering those principles. I'm animating away. Yeah. Of course I've done this like a million times before. Well, not a million, but a lot of times before. So I might be doing this a lot faster than what I expect from people, and I'll give you guys time to sort of follow along. Next time we'll try to put a lot more personality into the ball, sort of go over how we get different types of personalities into the ball, because right now I just made like a fairly generic bouncy ball. If there isn't a lot of questions, I'll just sort of take this further, animate it a little bit more, and maybe made like a sideways jump or something, kind of just have fun with it. I will show at this point too how to record your viewport if you want to post stuff on our Discord or something. Like, I think when you're starting out with 3D, and this is like advice that's not even to do with the course per se, but it is very useful advice, like getting in touch with community. I get the ball bouncing, but half on the ground, how to fix it? Okay, I'll show you. So getting in touch with community is really, really nice, and it makes the whole journey in 3D so much more enjoyable. So I would really recommend like joining the CADA Discord if you want to interact with people, or even joining any type of 3D Discord, talk with people, get a community. So the ball is half underground. How to fix it? So is it half underground already in the beginning? Hang. Or is it half underground at some other point in time? And about the community, like, I would love to show you guys how to record what you've done and post it, and then maybe I can give some feedback too next time or something. Yeah, like use the resources while you have them. It's great. I get the ball bouncing. Yeah, in the beginning. Okay, if you click your controller here, does it say 0? If it says, like, let's say, oops, I clicked something I shouldn't have. Happens all the time. Okay, there we go. If it says, like, I don't know, -0 point something here, you can go here and you can hit 0 on your keyboard, enter, and then insert a keyframe. If it says 0 here and it's still underground, it could be that in object mode that you accidentally moved it a little bit. So if you go back into object mode, select it, it could say that it says 0 here or something. And then you can just left click, drag down, then put them all to 0. Or do it one by one, put them to 0, 0, 0. And then you go back into pose mode and you start animating again. Did that help? Did it solve the problems? It could also be, so it's like important in general to try to keep your keyframes a little bit clean, especially in the beginning. Like, if you start setting up too many, yeah, see, I did something strange here. Okay, I made a mistake here. While I was trying to show something weird happened. So, okay, that is very strange. Yes, thank you, it solved it, okay. So the issue I'm having here is actually I set a keyframe at the beginning, but we don't really need a keyframe in the beginning, right? Because it's just supposed to be at 0, so we can go and we can remove it. Or we could go back into the graph editor and like change it there. Yeah. You were teaching very well, sir. I will tell you all it's up to you. Thank you very much. I'll be here Tuesday and Thursday every other week. So I'll be here again at the same time in 2 days, and then the week after that I won't be here. But then the next week again, Tuesday and Thursday, and we'll sort of go over the same stuff again if you need a refresher or something, right? We'll take all these principles further next time in 1.5 hours. Yeah. Okay, great. I'll show how to sort of record it. If you want to post it somewhere, if you want to be proud of it, I hope everybody is proud of it, because honestly this might seem really simple, but there's a lot to the principles. You can really go into depth with it, right? If you got something that looks, well, decent, you should be proud of it. Everybody begins somewhere, right? Okay. So, first of all, so now we'll touch on these tabs here. And there's a lot of tabs, but just try to do what I'm doing and you should be fine. We want to go in the one that is called output. So we want to output a video, right? So we just have to touch on a setting in here real quick. Or check it, because it should be set for you. This should be set to FFmpeg video. And then you want to go into encoding, and then you can pick MPEG4. Just basically click what I'm clicking, because you don't really need to understand all these right now. What we're doing right now is just telling Blender, hey, I want an MP4 video. So there should be FFmpeg video inside encoding MPEG-4, and you should get an MP4 video. Right, and once you're ready to record it, you can click this button. If you want it to look real nice, you can remove stuff, and then it will record from start till finish. And how you start the recording, you go, oh yeah, and also one other thing is in the output, you can click this little thing here, and then you can pick where you want the MP4 to be put once Blender has sort of made the video, right? So here you can pick pictures, whatever, anything you want. You go view, and then you do viewport render animation. So it's basically just gonna turn this into a video. And I would love if people did that and posted it in our Discord. And I can send an invite link to our Discord. This is the CADA Discord. It's really great to sort of get in touch with people. Oops, what did I do? Here. So I posted it in the chat. This is me. Hello. You can join that Discord once you get on there. Let's see. Once you get on there, there's different channels, and you can post stuff here in the free bootcamp. So you can see hello. You can post stuff here. Right. So feel free to post stuff here. Make me more than happy to see what people have done. And you do view, render animation. Yeah, we can do that right now actually. Viewport, render animation. Oops. Did I look something up? Oh yeah, I guess I had to do this. Yeah, I just had to set it again because it was like a file from somewhere else, so it didn't recognize it. So remember to set where it's supposed to output. Viewport render. Could not open file for writing. Okay, I'm having an issue here, but I'll figure this out. Just refine your bouncing balls. Or maybe I'll figure it out until next time. I'm really confused why it's doing that. Oh, okay. it is because the video codec. This should be the MP4. I'm so sorry about that, guys. It's not this, it's this. This should be the MP4. So let's try that. View, render animation. Why is it not? Like that. It should have been simple. My Blender is bullying me right now. That's not good, but I'll probably figure it out until next time. I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, so sorry about that. I mean, if you want to screen grab it any other way, you can do that and still post it. That's how people usually have done it in the past in the other boot camps. They just find some way to screen grab the screen and then post it. Okay, I'll figure it out. Are people able to actually get a bouncing ball? How did it go for people? Very strange. I mean, I can just play around with it a bit more then, since we have time. Okay. Still animating. Oh, it's completely fine. Alright, we did an up and down motion, and then while you might still be animating away at this, I can just sort of sit and do one more jump, and then people can follow along that too. If there's like refreshers on what we did today, you can kind of see me do it again, if that makes sense. So I'll go here and I'll unlock the x-axis because I want to kind of do a quick little sideways jump if we have time for it. So first things first, this will be like a little refresher. I put in my keyframes. So I go somewhere here, G to grab, insert. Right. Start out here, of course. Insert a keyframe. Location. Can go somewhere here. Insert a keyframe. Boop. Boop. And then we go, where do we want it to land? We want it to land somewhere here. And I can just go to the Z and put it to 0 to make sure that it's actually on the ground, right? Location, we can kind of look. We can click up and down arrow to like scroll through our keyframes, and yeah, that looks up like it's about in the middle, like what we would expect, right? We can play it. So we gotta make sure that it's also on the ground now in between here. So we can kind of look, so this is not for the class, but we can kind of see that it's doing some funky stuff with the graph editor. We have our main jump here, and then our new jump here, and it's doing some funky stuff, and we can sort of fix that because we don't want it to go underneath here. So what we can do is we can select this here, the handle, and then we do vector. Then we do vector here, and now it's sort of flattened it out. It basically allows us to move these handles without them affecting each other. Now we have it like that, and then it goes here. Just spent like a couple more minutes on this. I won't make it too long, it won't be perfect or something. Refresher, it's slow in the beginning, we don't want that, we want it to be thing, we don't want that, we want it to be fast. And we can do vector here too, because it's doing the same thing. We want it to be fast, because we're jumping, and we want to accelerate very fast. Vector here. And then I like to scale this up a little bit, so we get this kind of nice sort of jump, and then it holds in the air. Boop. Boop. It looks a little bit funny. Maybe I overdid it a little bit, so we can go here and then move this here. Sort of gotta feel it out at this point, and you only feel it out by playing the animation over and over again. Boop. Okay, you know, we can sort of work with this for now, I think. Right? Then Next, anticipation. Sure, we can add a little bit. Here we go down. We want to unlock the x-axis so we can anticipate in the right direction, location. Quick little. We can move it because we need a little bit more space, sort of. Actually, let's move all this like we did the first time. Quick little recap. Okay. Boop. And then at the beginning, we want to go as high as possible, because this is the fastest point in the animation. And then at the top, we don't want it to be so stretched because it's actually kind of slow. So we can move it back. We can just put it all to 0. And you can I hope you guys can see sort of all the stuff I talked about, how you can actually apply it and then start making whatever you sort of want. Like obviously this is just a bouncing ball, but now we're using the same principles to make it go somewhere. It's the same with a hand or an arm or like anything really. So keyframe, and then once it hits, we want it to be squashed down. Location. I'll go boop. And then now it looks a little strange because, well, we're not really controlling the arcs correctly. Which I probably won't have too much time to sort of refine stuff. But essentially we're gonna have to put in some more adjustments to this to make it bounce in the right sort of direction. At the end it goes down way too. We don't want that. So we can go here and we can adjust again. Okay, and don't worry, this is just all for demonstration purposes. And we want the movement, we don't want it to slow down, because as soon as you're in the air, you're not gonna gain or lose speed really, only with drag, but I mean this is a fun animation, who cares, we just keep it fun, right? So for the movement horizontally, we want it to be what we call linearly interpolated, so it will be the same speed all the way through. So here we have what we talked about before, it slows and then speeds up and then slows down. But we select these two and then we do vector, and now it'll just be like a straight line. So boop, boop. So we kind of get something like that. It's a little bit fun, right? A quick little jump. Here we want the follow through. We want to make sure our squash and stretch feels proper. So at the end we want it to be back to where it started, so it loops. Then once it hits, we want it to bounce up a little bit, make it a little bouncy. Boop. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it's not perfect, but that's the whole thing with animation, right? You can spend forever sort of refining it. I can delete this, maybe. Boop. There we go. We got a little sideways jump. I think as long as you sorta kinda understand these principles after today, I'd be happy, because this is like, I'd be happy if I could kinda show you how those work, because they're really important. You use it for anything. Boop. Yeah, there we go. I am really sad I couldn't kind of get the video to work. Can we do this? Do I have to make a folder for it? Yeah guys, like let me know how it went. Did you enjoy today's session? Was it too fast? Was it confusing? Did you manage to make something? or were you just listening and following along? I mean, both are fine, right? As long as you learn something, that's kind of the point of this, and get you like a little bit introduced to Blender at least. See what it's all about. And I'll be looking at the Discord as well, so if you manage to make something and put it there, I'll look at it next time, or something, and you can get some feedback too, right? It was super fun. I'm very happy about that. It makes me very happy to hear that you enjoyed it. That's kind of what it's all about, right? Makes it worth it. Hopefully you learned something too. Thank you. I mean, thank you for coming here. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Does we need to render to get a video? No, we don't need to render to get a video. I was trying to set it up so we could just sort of take a recording of the screen. I'm very sore, but I don't know why. It's kind of not amazing. Like, it's not really working right now, and I don't know why. So I'll fix that for next time. I'm sorry about that, people. You can, of course, render this out, but that's like a whole nother thing. Rendering in 3D is like a whole nother subject. And if you're interested in that, I mean, it's definitely knowledge to be had there too. Like, you can check out CADA's website for a lot of stuff about where to learn stuff, and there's different types of boot camps and stuff. I think sculpting is tomorrow, so that'll be fun. We'll try this one last time, see if I can save it in the end. Okay, there we go, everybody. It was a problem with this school PC, the way it was set up. I had to like make a new folder somewhere. So if you're still with us, I hope I didn't lose everybody, but you can render it out like this. So you go into here, the render tab, you pick the output. So just pick any folder that you want the MP4 to be put in. You take the file format as an FFmpeg video. And then video codec, you put it to MP4, and then you go view and render animation. And before you do that, you can click this little button to hide stuff, and it will look nice. Viewport render animation, and you kind of get this. So I'll let it render out, and then you can post this in the chat or the Discord channel. That would be great. Okay, we also need to make sure that did it actually work? It might have just worked. Okay, in the folder you get an MP4 file, you can play it, then we should see our little animation. Yes, there we go. Boop, boop. So, and then you can put that anywhere you want. This is not a render, this is what we call a play blast. So it's just like quick video of the viewport. And it's gonna just take a video of whatever is on your screen. So keep that in mind when you go view and then render animation. Okay. So that's it. I hope people enjoyed their first time with me. I hope I was able to sort of explain and get some of these principles through. Yeah, and then I'll sort of call it here. If there are no more questions, I will be very happy to see the stuff that you post. Remember these settings, and you can record it and post it in the Discord after the stream. Yeah, and then I'll be back again in 2 days. And I'll sort of expand on these principles more and give our ball more character. Thank you. Yeah, of course. I'll be happy to see you again in 2 days, so if you're able to. Okay. Alright, goodbye everybody. I'll see you later. Sorry about the sore throat, but it's kind of like that sometimes. I tried. Okay. Goodbye. I hope you enjoyed. I did send something in Discord. Oh my goodness, wait. Oh my god, I'm saying goodbye, but I really want to see this before I go. Oh, okay, you did like a little Jumanji thing. Okay, that's really cool. Nice job. So we don't have to render the model to get the video. I like the Jumanji render, that's really cool. No, so you don't have to render it, we're just doing a play blast. So you go into your render settings here, file format should be FFmpeg video, video codec should be MPEG4, container should be MPEG4, you can do audio as MP3, but it doesn't really matter. So as long as you have these settings here, and you pick the folder you want it in, you go view, and you go viewport render animation, and then you should have. Oh, that's really cool, Anka. It looked like it could probably be shown as like a commercial or something. That's really cool. Okay, everybody, goodbye. I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you again in 2 days, same time, same place. Yeah, see you. Bye bye.